The Tao of Self-Confidence, episode 699. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. Visit our website at thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Your inner journey to self-confidence awaits. Well, hello, friend. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. I'm your host today, Sheena Yap-Chan, and today I have a phenomenal lady on the show today. She is a podcaster and a music executive, and I'm really excited to have her on and share her story with us today on self-confidence. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Zeena Koda. Zeena, how are you today? Maybe you can fill in a little bit more about yourself to the listeners.
Yeah, of course. I'm your classic multi-hyphenate. Started my career in music, still in music, but I've kind of hit a lot of touch points in the media side of music between being on radio on Sirius XM for about 6.5 years. I was doing a daily metal show that was nationally syndicated, to also being a writer and a VJ at the time when it actually was still a career, and really just working in digital marketing and digital media from kind of the beginnings, right? From the end of the 00s into the 10s, have just been kind of hustling many different prospects on that end. I work for a company called The Fader, who own a creative agency called Cornerstone. Worked on a lot of different clients and headed up a team there. Worked for Motown Records for about 2 years. And right now I'm heading up the urban digital marketing team at Atlantic Records.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And Zeena, what's your cultural background?
So my cultural background is I am half Filipino, half Polish, but my mom very much immersed in Filipino culture. I'm what they call in the Philippines a mestiza. Yeah, and it's been an interesting ride, especially being one of the few Filipinos in the mix of what I do for fashion. It's really cool to represent that in this realm.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And what would be your favorite self-confidence quote?
Self-confidence quote. Let's see. Probably, and I always tell my employees this, and I always tell everybody who works with me, whenever things get a little bit crazy or, I'm not sure of anything, I'm like, hey, you do what you can. It's a very simple kind of phrase, but honestly, it's basically all that you really can do, no matter what the situation. So I feel that it translates to a lot of different people.
Thanks for sharing that great quote. And in your own words, how do you define self-confidence?
Oh, self-confidence. Self-confidence is basically having the wherewithal to deal with anything that comes your way. It is having foresight to also know that you need to educate and, make sure that you know as much about any given subject at any given day that you're at least addressing at that time. I would say self-confidence is just really, the ability to be yourself, but also work towards, a larger goal. So being confident and having self-confidence definitely shines through every single time. It's both knowing that you are capable, but also diving into what you're capable of.
Thanks for sharing that great definition. I like how you mentioned knowing your capabilities and expanding those capabilities, because, some of us feel like there's a line that we can just we reach and we can't go further, not realizing we can if we just keep doing it and we keep pushing ourselves, just building that little bit of confidence, we can go a little bit further and further. So thanks for sharing that. And Zeena, what was your life like before your discovery of self-confidence?
I actually don't really remember a time where I wasn't a little bit cocky in some ways, because I'm an only child. I came from a really kind of almost super lower middle class background. So I've always had to have a lot of confidence. And I think I really cultivated that at a very young age, because I realized that, if you act it and you give it off, then people will accept you as it. So that definitely has been something that I've worn on my sleeve since I was probably a teenager. When you're a kid, you really don't have a lot of self-confidence, only because you're still figuring out who you are. You're still figuring out how to navigate this crazy world. But yeah, I would say self-confidence is definitely, almost to a detriment, I would say at times, been a huge part of who I am.
Thanks for sharing that. And, is there any moments in your life where you realize you can be who you are today and have that confidence, especially being in the music industry? I'm pretty sure it's kind of cutthroat sometimes. And Zena, what was that point in your life where, were there moments in your life where you realized you always had that confidence to go out there and do the things that you want versus like following the crowd? Was there any aha moments?
I don't really think there was. Again, like I've always been an against the grain kind of misfit. I still feel like a misfit every single day. Like there's no, it's both a blessing and a curse because you're not like anybody else. But sometimes I feel like nobody really understands me, and no, I don't really belong anywhere, which kind of sounds probably crazy to a lot of people. But for me, I always maintain this kind of like this curiosity for what's next and what I can be. So I never try to stay too long in any one specific area. Like that's not saying that I'm not like investing in a career or investing in who I am. I just try to really expand my horizons by keeping things moving and trying different things out. But I've never been afraid really of being who I am because I don't think I'm a weirdo, and there's definitely not a lot of people like me. So I had to kind of carve that out for myself.
Thanks for sharing that. And, because of that, like, what's your life been like now?
I feel that it's worked to my benefit in a lot of ways. The fact that I'm really multifaceted in a way that not a lot of people can be. I do feel that I have a very different perspective, especially in the music world, working in hip hop and urban music, because I do have this rock background, because I do have kind of a different way at looking at things. I think it's a benefit in the end because not a lot of people are able to make those kind of connections or seeing things together like that. And it's nice for me to be able to kind of live in both of those different worlds.
Thanks for sharing that. And I think that's great that you're able to do that. For some people, it might not make sense, but for you, because you have that background, you can, see what's possible, right? And create something magical, which is pretty cool. So thanks for sharing that. And, to the woman who's listening to your episode, she may be in her own journey to self-confidence. What would be that one tip you would give to her?
Don't give a shit what anyone else says and learn how to fail. Like I would say in my life on any given day, like today I'm having one of those, like, what am I doing with my life kind of days. So maybe you're catching me at a different perspective, but it's only because I've just had a hard day and a lot of things have failed, to be honest. It's not a very successful day for me. Now, that's not to say that tomorrow I'm not going to be crushing it. I just think that like a lot of times people let failure set them back, and don't get me wrong, I cried to myself too. I cried to my boyfriend. I have tears, but I think that you just have to like, if you have a vision for what you want, you really have to dedicate your time and your resource towards it. And you just can't care what anybody else says about what you should and shouldn't be doing.
Thanks for sharing that great tip. And, I wish, people would teach failure as something good versus something bad, especially when you're a lot younger. I know at school, it's like when you fail a course, it's like the end of the world, but really failure, like you mentioned, is part of the process. We're going to have bad days. We're going to cry about it, but we can still pick ourselves back up and keep moving forward. So thanks for sharing those great tips. And if our listeners wanted to get to know a little bit more about you and what you do, or check out some of your work, is there any links or social media profiles we can connect with?
Yeah, I'm at Zeena Koda, ZeenaKoda, on literally every social media platform. You can also find me on zeenakoda.com. I have highlights of my Ladyish podcast, which you can check out. And there's a ton of like my older work, voiceover work I've done, being in a band, and kind of the mix of all the different parts of my life.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And to our listeners, if you want to connect with Zeena, you can also head on over to thetaoofselfconfidence.com and search for Zeena's name. Her show notes will pop up along with everything else that we talked about. And I really just want to thank Zeena today for taking the time to share her story and tips with us on self-confidence. So thank you so much, Zeena.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Not a problem. It was really great having you on the show. And to our listeners, be on the lookout for another new episode of another amazing woman's journey to self-confidence. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to another amazing episode of The Tao of Self-Confidence. Please subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify to get your daily boost of confidence.